Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Apex Online Racing for what will hopefully be another exciting round of action in the Hype Energy PlayStation 4 F2 League. We're on to round 9 of 12 in the Championship, the final one before our last break, and it is coming from the Hockenheim ring. It is the German Grand Prix. Luke Etheridge and Austin Smith bringing you the action, and some big news tonight. Championship leader Kieski, who did have a chance of winning the championship tonight if he would have attended, would not be here. So this is a big opportunity for Iamotti to get closer, as he's currently second in the championship. But Austin, with 4 different winners in the last 4 races, it's going to be tough for the McLaren driver, you feel, to gain any real ground.
Yeah, and it's not just 4 different winners, it's also 3 different pole sitters in the last 4 races, MNT Antoine being the only one who did that twice. So with the rain that we also see now, that is certainly something. Was not prepared for that, really. But that's going to be interesting. And MNT Antoine did have, or hold on, did he change his name? Where is he? Oh yeah, he's all the way down there as Antoine F110. He's part of Team Mentalism, so... that's why I said MNT Antoine, but races here tonight with his other account. But yeah, he's had 2 pole positions. Couldn't really do much with his first one. That was very unfortunate in China, completely disconnected there and was pretty much out of the race before it even started. And then 4th place last week. So yeah, I have to say he's someone that I would look out for. Who can maybe capitalize upon Kieski not being here, maybe finally get a pole position that also turns into a win.
Yeah, if you weren't with us last week, there was quite a few incidents at the Australian circuit. That did lead to a few safety cars, and Johan was the big winner from all of that. He didn't win after the provisional results were given at the end of last week's stream. It was Thyman who won on penalties in the stream, but in the end, Johan got his 5-second penalty under the safety car removed, which I think me and Austin both expected, and that gave him his first win of the season. Thyman equaling his best finish in 2nd. We said Antoine, he managed to finish in 4th. That's his best finish of the season. And we also saw Jack Eiter in the McLaren get his first podium of the season. And I think that says a lot about the class of drivers in this field, Austin, that we saw a lot of drivers getting their best results. It's not that the pace hasn't been there. For a lot of them, it's just keeping clean and having that consistency.
Yeah, one big part, obviously, around most of these tracks, and Germany is no different in that regard, is, as you said, keeping it clean, but also keeping it within the track limits. Corner cut and track extension penalties play a huge role, and the one spot I would look out for here tonight is the exit of turn 12. On the exit there, you have a pretty broad curb that is very flat. You can go over that. You could pretty much, if you were allowed to, you could take it all. And behind that, you even have a little bit of AstroTurf, a little bit of the green AstroTurf behind that as well, which doesn't really unsettle the car much, and has at least provides enough grip to, you know, then sling back onto the track. However, if you leave the track with more than 2 wheels, the game is going to penalize you. Here in qualifying, that means your lap will not count, and in the race, that is a warning, and we're going to have 34 laps, meaning you have to go through that corner 34 times, and if you get a warning half the time, that's 17. That would be 5 3-second time penalties.
Yeah,
and 2 additional warnings.
Yeah, I was going to say just 1 warning away from another one, so you definitely don't want to be doing that too much. Just going on board now with Aero, yet to get a win in the Williams this season. It seems to be feast or famine for him. He either has a fantastic race and he's up near the top, or seems to be languishing towards the bottom of the field, really struggling to control that Williams on this lap. Unsurprisingly, given the shocking conditions we are seeing here tonight, avoids the ice rink at the final corner, nearly skidding into the pit wall, and it's a 124.619. That's probably about 14 seconds, would you say, Austin, off what you'd expect in nice, normal, dry conditions?
Yeah, pretty much. I was looking, obviously, through the leaderboards a little bit as well, and that's pretty much the consensus here. I haven't seen a single driver of those here on the grid drop into the 1:09, so 1:10 is pretty much what you expect in qualifying in the dry. and they're pretty much almost 14 and a half seconds off with Suso. Yeah, there we go. Now we're dropping to 14 seconds as Max improves on Suso's time as well. So, yeah, it's pretty much 14 seconds off.
Yeah, so I can't see the conditions improving too much throughout this qualifying session. Not to get onto dries anyway. We may see them go onto intermediates if things go better on, as we've seen Giggs. He has spun coming out of turn 10 and 11, but luckily for him, able to keep going, as Thyman has now gone fastest with a 1:24.1. This is going to change things up in the race, of course, having this wet qualifying, because they will have a free choice of tyres to start the race. And Giggs is really struggling. We haven't had a weather report of any of the drivers yet, but given by how much everyone seems to be struggling to keep it on the circuit, it says to me they're all running fairly low on downforce and running dry setups. I could be wrong, but strategy will be very important here tonight.
Yeah, it's always a little bit of a gamble whether you go for a dry setup in qualifying. And, you know, knowing that you might end up qualifying worse than some drivers who maybe go for a bit more compromised setup, maybe, you know, adjust the wings, one here, two there. So it's always a gamble, but depending on what the weather forecast says, usually the way I always handled it back in my day, which obviously a long time ago, was that I always just went by what the race weather forecast told me. It didn't really bat an eye too much about what's going on in qualifying, because you have these parc ferme conditions, meaning whatever setup you choose now is going to be the setup that you will also use for the race.
Yeah, definitely no points for qualifying. It's always nice to start near the front of the grid, and at the moment it's going to be Thyman, first man in the 123s on pole position, and Dynastics up in second. We saw him do this in China in a wet qualifying. We thought it might just be how good he is around that Chinese circuit. He has won 2 seasons in a row now at AOR at Shanghai, but he's showing tonight he has definitely got good pace in these wet conditions. Sam Yubin has retired in the pit lane without setting a lap. I don't believe he had a qualifying ban, so I'm not quite sure why he has done that. And a few driver changes to make you aware of in terms of reserves tonight. We've got Jordan Polska, who's just gone up into second, replacing Furhan Racer for this evening. So Furhan having to miss his home race, and VRT Sam replacing Kieski, who unfortunately is unwell. Very close at the top of the field at the moment.
Yeah, that's what you expect. I mean, if you've been here for any of the first 8 races, the strength of this field and how close they are, it's been absolutely mind-boggling. And one mistake can see you drop to 5, 6, depending on how severe the mistake is. Even a tiny mistake can make you drop 3, 4, 5 places. Just by losing a 10th or 2. That's how close it is here. And we see that trend obviously continue, and I think we're going to see that continue until the very last race at Brazil.
Yes, definitely. We have got a week break, as I mentioned earlier, after this race, before the final 3 races of the season. Then it'll be Canada, Austria, and a traditional season finale in Brazil. On board with Iamotti tonight. He ideally could do with winning, but you get a funny feeling for his championship chances. A podium is the bare minimum for him tonight in the McLaren.
The remarkable thing about Iamotti and the gap he has to the championship leader Kieski is that even if I'm just trying to visualize it, even if Iamotti wins here tonight and gets the fastest lap of the race, meaning a full 26 points, he's still more than another win, more than one win, more than 26 points behind Kieski. That's how big the gap is. So he needs 2 wins with Kieski not showing up twice or retiring. And even then, Kieski would still have the lead. So we know already that Kieski will be the leader after this race. We know that Kieski will also be the leader after the Canadian Grand Prix. The question is, by how much?
Yeah, Iamotti will be hoping to eat into that gap tonight. He's currently 9th on the grid, as we just see Johan winning his first race. We said so often the bridesmaid last week, getting his 4th podium of the season, but his first victory. He is up into 6th, halfway through this qualifying session, and it's Dynastics once again showing the pace he has got in these wet conditions. By AOR F2 standards, that is a huge gap at the top of the field, nearly a quarter of a second at the moment.
And I think it's less about Dynastics liking this track, because as much as he is in the top 500 in the world, he's not inside the, let me quickly count this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, he's not near the top 10 on this grid, based on his leaderboard time alone. Obviously there's other factors. I think what it is, as Jordan Polska now goes into provisional pole, I think what it is, and we've seen it in China, is the wet conditions. Dynastics just loves the rain, and as soon as it pours down, expect his name and expect the Red Bull near the top of the standings.
Yeah, definitely. He's doing a great job so far. 2nd place. That is where he started when he won in China, with Antoine unable to take his pole position. We see Suso pulling into the pit lane. Williams 8th and 9th at the moment. Well, let's see Jack. He's also heading into the pit lane. Now, Avesi struggled a bit on his comeback. I think it's fair to say both Alphas haven't really had an ideal season. In fact, Avesi completely missing his front wing, so he's been in the wall somewhere on this circuit. They could really do with a good result tonight.
Yeah, looking at Avesi's car, he's lucky that he's not out of this qualifying session right now, because that front wing, it usually, you know, there's gradual damages of front wing. There's the one that we're always looking out for on lap 1, meaning, oh, is an end plate gone somewhere? That's the smallest damage that you can have. Right here on Avesi's car, there is no front wing left. You only have the nose. The base of the front wing is completely gone. And that means that he was really, really lucky that he did not end his qualifying session in whatever wall he hit right there. But yeah, Avesi, I mean, we know he has the pace. I mean, if I look at his leaderboard time, 1 minute 10.3, which is only, not even 3/10 behind the fastest driver on the leaderboard, which is Marco Krisman. So expect something from him tonight, I think. But he's in the top 261 on the global leaderboard. Avesi has the pace, and we know it. The one thing that he lacks, I think, at this point, maybe is racecraft, because he had such a long break, and you need to get back into the rhythm. Because if you look at his results, 3 DNFs, a 16th and a 15th place. That's not what Avesi's pace is. So there must be something else at play here.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was Italy where he was actually in the points for a while. Maybe, no, I think it might have been Japan actually. He was in the points until quite late in the race, and things just started going wrong for him. So we know he's got the pace. We know Slimbo has got the pace. He had a 5th place in race 1 in the season, did his teammate, but for whatever reason, things just not working out for them. Slimbo's just moved up into 12th, and Avesi currently 19th and last of those to have set a time. Marco Krisman, he's definitely showing that he has got some pace. The Ferrari currently in 5th position. Just watching Iamotti, he's coming across the line, but this is not going to be an improvement for him, staying in 14th. Both McLarens not looking too good at the moment in this qualifying session, 14th and 18th. We talked about the Drivers' Championship looking like it's heading the way of Kieski. In the Constructors, Kieski's great form has given Mercedes a 72-point lead over McLaren. Things still incredibly close behind McLaren though for 3rd place. Haas, Toro Rosso and Red Bull all separated by 15 points, and Williams not too far off either. That could be very interesting, especially with the pace we've seen Toro Rosso drivers showing lately.
Yeah, definitely. You have to say Johan finally getting his first win. I gotta say, I feel for him. All this time he was waiting, that he got to take it away last week by a penalty that was then thankfully overturned by the stewards, and rightfully overturned by the stewards, and finally got his first win in a season and a half. And he only had 1 win before that. And Antoine as well. I mean, 4th place last week was good. Before that, he was on pole but didn't even get to race. I mentioned it before in China. So that's a really good result. probably that was completely taken from him. So the Toro Rossos really on the up and up there, really trending towards the front of the grid, and I am very interested to see what they can do in the final 4 races.
Yeah, definitely. Currently 9th and 14th of Essie seems to be really exploring all parts of the track here at Hockenheim. He's gone off through the Parabolica, turn 5. No damage done this time, but he's having to slow down to let all the cars through at the moment, just getting out of the way of his teammate, Jordan Polska. He's got a bit of traffic on his lap. First race of the season for the reserve, replacing Furhan tonight, and he is currently on provisional pole position, so looking very good for him. He's just backed off of his fast lap because he's stuck behind this man, Marco Kriesman, in the Ferrari. I think it's fair to say Marco, another one of those drivers that has shown some good pace. We expected a lot of things from him in the Ferrari this season, but apart from the odd bright spot, not had the pace to challenge for podiums.
Most of it came from last season, where he obviously did a fantastic job, and especially in the last 5 or 6 races where he won almost all of them. I think he had the last 6 races, he had 4 wins, 2 second places, something like that. An absolutely insane streak from him. But ever since, it's gone downhill again, and it started it off with a 10th place in Bahrain, and the best results he had was 4th at Silverstone, and then 5th at China 2 weeks ago. And apart from that, yeah, not that many points. Couple of fastest laps outside the top 10, which you don't get any points for here. So really, for him, not exactly what he was hoping for, I think. But the midfield battle, I think, is still on, and there's still a lot of positions to be gained in the last 4 laps. I think, realistically, for Marco Kriesman, the aim should be to get into the top 5. I think Pedro in 5th place right now. He's 29 points ahead of Marco Kriesman. I think that's a possible goal in 4 races, to make up 29 points on another driver.
Yeah, definitely. We've just seen Max find a huge improvement on his wet tyres on that lap. A 1:23.396. Always seems to go under the radar, Max. He's had a very respectable season, you've got to say. Always seems to be in the points, and he's looking good tonight. Maybe can take pole position with a 1:23.396. Just over a minute to go. Antoine on an out lap. Everyone else currently on a flying lap. Things are going to get very busy around this Hockenheim circuit.
Yeah, especially towards that 0 second mark. I expect a lot of drivers to be bunching up right before the start-finish line, because always, even in the wet, you want to be the last one to come across the line and start your lap, because that gives you the best conditions out here on track, gives you the most grip even in the rain, and it just, you know, it can be ultimately the deciding factor.
Yeah, we've seen that quite often. That last car across the line has taken pole position. Johan, he's on the slight improvement at the moment. He's in 4th place, needs to find just over a 10th to move himself ahead of Dynastics, and he's invalidated coming out of the final corner. Would not have been enough anyway. Max has headed into the pits. He's fairly happy with his job, and we've still got an incredibly close qualifying. Just look, 10th to 15th separated by just under a 10th of a second. We're now seeing Jordan Polska in 2nd, Thyman moving up to 3rd place. 2 second places so far. Could this be the race where he takes his and has his first victory of the season? Checkered flag is now out.
Yeah. Jordan Polska coming across the line. He was 35 milliseconds up at the middle sector, but lost this almost all of it. Only 2 thousandths of a second improvement there for the Polish driver, and remains in P2 for now. But with the gap so close, those 2 milliseconds might actually help him keep that 2nd place, or whatever place he ultimately lands in. Imagine if someone goes 1:23.440. Then Jordan's going to be the one who says, "Phew, thank you very much for that lap. I needed that, otherwise that would have been another position."
Yeah, Dynastics wasn't able to improve as he headed across the line now. Antoine, he's going to be next car coming across the line, and he's not done any improvement. So 18th, he'll be disappointed with that after 2 consecutive pole positions. Johan, he's invalidated his lap, so he's not too far off from coming round. Sam heading into the pits. The other Mercedes of Loney also heading into the pits in 30th place. So everyone seems to actually be struggling on this final lap. Thyman coming around the final corner. Can he find an improvement in the final sector and get on the front row? Not able to do so. And that is that, I believe, for qualifying. It is Max who takes his first pole position in the Racing Point, and a great front row from Jordan Polska on his debut as a reserve.
Yeah, for Max, it is overall in AOR his 3rd pole position, but the first one this season. And I'm pretty sure he's going to be happy with that. After all these results, if you look at his results, it's quite interesting. He's never finished in an odd position, always even. It was always P4, P6, P8. One time was P16. One time he didn't finish at all. But it's always been an even position most of the time in the points. P4, P6, P8. Maybe this time around it's going to end a little bit better for him.
Yeah, he'll definitely be looking for an odd position, and that position will be P1 after qualifying on pole. Jordan Polska just behind in his fellow Dutch VLT driver Thyman in 3rd. Can he take his first victory? Dynastic showing his wet weather prowess once again in 4th. Suso 5th. Last week's race winner Johan in 6th position. Pedro, Sam, Aero and Iamotti rounding out the top 10. Giggs just behind his IGK stablemate in 11th. Jaquita 12th. Loney 13th. He was looking for a win. And then it's Marco Kriesman, Slimbo, Pasti, Jompalainen, Antoine and Aresi. Samu Bean didn't set a lap time. But even in them conditions, Austin, all the drivers separated by just 1.1 seconds. This should be a fascinating race.
Yeah, it should be, and if there's one track that lends itself to some fascinating racing, it certainly is the Hockenheim Ring. Only 4.574 kilometers long, one of the rather short tracks on the calendar, but over those 4.5 kilometers, we have 17 corners, 11 right, 6 left, so a lot of technical sections. If you look at the Mercedes Arena, turns 7 to 11. If you look at the last part of the track, the 3rd sector turns 12 to 17. Obviously, with the ice rink, as you mentioned before, on the exit of 16 and 17, that certainly is something interesting. But it doesn't seem like it's going to affect the drivers too much here because it is not raining in the race.
Yeah, it's not raining, but I wouldn't say the sky looks too inviting. We're all nice and dry at the moment, which I'm sure will be a relief. We do seem to have a large amount of wet races and qualifying sessions this season. Just looking at the tyres that everyone is on, perhaps unsurprisingly, given the short life of the softs around this track, no one has gone for them. It seems like a pretty even split. I think it is 10-10 between the medium and the hard tyres. Top 4 all going on the mediums. Suso, the highest driver, starting on those hards.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, I have to say. The soft tyres really don't last that long. However, what this also tells me is that A, I think most drivers are prepared for a one stop, and B, I don't know if we've gotten a weather forecast yet, but if we didn't, there's a pretty good chance we might see some rain through the race, maybe towards the middle of the race, because otherwise you might see at least 1 or 2 drivers go on to the softer, maybe try a 2-stop, but in this situation, no one. I find that a bit surprising. I think that is because there may be some rain on the way, especially if you look at the skies, not really telling us that it's going to be fully dry. It's overcast, it's gloomy, and yeah, I would expect around maybe at the very least lap 10, because the softs usually last around 9 laps. So at the very least by lap 10, maybe lap 15, maybe lap 20, I think we might actually see some rain.
Well, we'll have to see if that prediction comes through. If not, I'd imagine it's going to be one stop, mediums to hards or hards to mediums, but that could all change if we get a safety car. Thyman thought he won last week. What can he do this time out from 3rd position as we wait now for the final few cars to take up their grid slots. And then round 9 out of 12 in this AOR F2 Championship will be underway. We wait now for the lights to come on. There's 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll wait for them to go out, and once they do, we are racing here at Germany. It's a good start by Max straight away. Polska having to cover Dynastics and Thyman behind. Thyman managing to go round the outside of Dynastics to defend that position. All seems to be fairly clean so far. There's a bit of contact actually with a Red Bull and a Williams just in the background. That was Aero and Pedro, I believe, but everyone seems to have got further through the first corners okay. But it's Jordan Polska all over the back of Max already. No DRS, remember, but he's going to have a go into the hairpin surely at turn 7. The Renault coming to the inside for that corner. He's going to be later on the brakes, both on the same tyres. Max trying to hold it off around the outside, not able to do so at the moment, and Jordan Polska just about getting ahead. In fact, Max has got a great exit out of that.
Yeah, meanwhile, in the hairpin, there was a little bit of a tangling between Pasti, Sammy Bean, and Jumperleinen, who, got a little bit too close there for comfort right in the back of the grid. And, I think it was Pasti who almost got spun around by both Jumperleinen and Sammy Bean on the outside.
Yeah, while that was happening, Jordan Polska's pulled off a great move around the outside of turn 11 to get ahead of Max, so he's taking the lead at the end of lap 1. There was a brief yellow flag in the Mercedes arena, which I think may have been for one of the Alfa Romeos, but they seem to have got through just about unscathed at the moment. All 20 cars still running at the end of lap 1, and it's Jordan Polska with nearly a second lead over Max, who's going to have Thyman all over the back of him any minute now. We have seen a few pit stops, Antoine, Slimbo and Avessi, and there's been a spin at turn 1. It's quite often that you see that, and it is Loney, not the start he wanted at his home race in the Mercedes.
Yeah, a little bit reminiscent of the Valtteri Bottas spin that we saw last season in the real F1. Turn 1 is a tricky one, and caught out another Mercedes driver here. This time it's Loney, and he's going to have to chase after the rest of the field now.
Yeah, definitely. Suso battling with Pedro and Aero. We've got another yellow flag, and that is Avessi retiring from the session in the pit lane. Not being a great return for him. He's going to have 3 races to try and salvage something from this season. Jordan Polska showing some great pace at the head of the field. Antoine pitted for the medium tyres. I have seen the 2-stop work around here. If you do an early pit stop onto those mediums, they are a very good race tyre, so things might not be over for Antoine, especially if we get a safety car. Currently looking at the battle for 5th, 6th and 7th. Pedro finding himself in a Williams sandwich at the moment, and they will have DRS coming out of turn 1, and of course all the way through the parabolica heading to the hairpin this time around.
Yeah, meanwhile DRS does get enabled. We are in lap 3, and after the first 2 laps DRS always gets enabled, so first time they can use it is on the parabolica. That is the first detection point they are passing, so right here they could actually try and get an overtake done, and Pedro, I think, is going to do that to the inside of the hairpin. He goes past Aero and completes the overtake before the braking zone. So that is Pedro up into P5 and now right behind his teammate Dynastics.
Yeah, and Sam has managed to get past Diggs and Johan, I believe. I think he might have done 2 in 1 there.
Oh, here goes Dynastics! Dynastics into the Mercedes arena here and gets the move done cleanly on Max. To the inside he goes, and what a fantastic overtake that is by the Danish driver, now up into P3.
Yeah, Max seems to be struggling in these conditions. I wonder if he did go for more of a wet setup, because Thyman got past him pretty easily as well, heading into the hairpin, and Dynastics able to follow through. He just doesn't seem to have the pace in the dry at the moment. The racing point has dropped to 4th position, and it won't be long before Pedro, Aero and Suso are on the back of him. Thyman, now that he is in some free air, setting the fastest lap of the race as he tries to close within a second. As we just see Pedro taking a very wide line through turn 1. Do that too often, you will get a penalty, as we see our first few pop along the bottom of the screen. I believe it was Giggs and someone else getting a penalty there at the moment. But Pedro, he's got his DRS open. He's not going to be close enough to Max to do anything, as Dynastics heading up to Thyman, up in 3rd place. It's been another great race. He seems to be a changed driver since he got that victory in China.
Yeah, it seems so, doesn't it? Really, before that, he didn't get a single point. And now all of a sudden, he got a win, and now he's fighting for maybe another, at the very least, a podium here. And obviously it is very early in the race, but so far it's looking really good for him. And what I said earlier about, he just likes the rain, it's not the track. Maybe it is the track after all. And I would like to walk that back maybe a little bit, because Dynastic so far in this race, 4 laps in, already gained a position from where he qualified, now up into third, and yeah, he's holding his own there.
Yeah, he has gained a position. Some of the big winners on that lap, on the first couple of laps, Samu being gaining 6 places after not taking part in qualifying, Aero gaining 3 as well. Perhaps unsurprising to see Suso and Johan dropping, given that they started on those hard tyres, and Max, as we've said, dropped 3 places, although he is managing to just keep on the back of Dynastics, and Pedro has actually dropped back, so maybe Max just getting into the swing of things a bit more in this race, and we could see his and Racing Point's first podium of the season. Further back, Aero not quite close enough yet to have a go at Pedro, so things seem to be slightly calming down at the front of this race. Probably still going to be another 7 or 8 laps at least before we see some of these front runners come in to change their tyres.
Yeah, the medium tyre lasts quite long, and with 34 laps around here, the medium tyre does last around 17 to 19 laps. It falls off a cliff after around, I would say, 15 to 16 maybe. So expect drivers to come in by lap, let's say, the pit window would be between lap 13 and 16 for the medium runners.
Yeah, it all depends, of course, where they might come out. They don't want to get stuck in traffic, so I'm sure they'll be talking to Jeff as much as possible to find out what is happening. We're on board now with Giggs, 10th place. Sam, the Mercedes reserve driver, ahead of him at the moment, currently the only Mercedes in the points, as Giggs very close to losing it there, and that's going to give Johan a great run in the Toro Rosso, heading down towards turn 2, late on the brakes from the Frenchman. Last week's race winner, not able to do anything, but he's going to get a better exit than Giggs, and he's going to have a chance through the Parabolica. They've both got DRS, but he's going to have the slipstream and have a much better line. He's had to pull out of it early there when Jack Eater's not too far behind. They're going to go 3 wide here into the hairpin, and Jack Eater on the inside gets 10th place very briefly, but he went a bit too deep on the brakes. There's some wheel banging. Marco Kriesman's going to get involved. We're not going to go 4 wide round here, lads. There's no way you're going to be able to make it.
Someone had to pull out there. Thankfully, it was Johan who was the prevailing mind in that situation and decided to live to fight another day, as they say, and take a 2-position loss here effectively, now behind Jack Eater and Marco Kriesman. But my goodness, 4 wide out of the hairpin. I've never seen that before. And by the way, that little bit of wheel banging, that was pretty much what happened on lap 1 with Pasti and Jumperlinen as well. So you've got pretty much, for me it was a deja vu. And if you haven't seen it, that was exactly pretty much what happened at lap 1 there as well.
Yeah, that wheel banging did allow Marco Kriesman to gain a few places, and now Sam Yabin has got past Giggs as well, so Giggs was in the points at 1 bit. He's now dropped way back to 14. Up front though, Thyman and Dynastics really closing up onto the back of Jordan Polska, and they're dragging Max along with them, so we've got a 4-car train at the moment for the lead of this race. Just 1.2 seconds separated all of them. Pedro, Aero, Suso, Iamotti, Sam and Jack Eater rounding out the points at the moment. This is going to be a very intriguing race. Did Jordan Polska just go too hard on those first couple of laps and take too much out of his medium tyres early on? Sure, Thyman won't want to be too aggressive with him. They are in the same esports team at Vortex Racing Team, so he'll be being a bit careful. But Thyman, he's had second place twice already. He's desperate for that first victory.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? I mean, he's come so close. He thought he won the race last time out, only to, after the race, be told that Johan got a penalty that he will probably get removed, and he did ultimately. And Thyman got his win taken away as quickly as he got it. So, really, really bad feelings there. I think this time Thyman, he's driving with a chip on his shoulder. He wants that win finally. He wants to get this first place. He's been on the podium twice this season. Both times it was a second place. He didn't have... It's kind of like Johan, only on a shorter scale, on a smaller scale. where he's been so close so many times. He also had a 4th and a 5th place as well, plenty of 7th places, but he's never been on the very top step. And this time the only guy who's ahead of him is the new reserve driver, Jordan Polska. And the one thing you don't want to see is that you're being beaten by a reserve driver. I can tell you from experience, that's not a feeling you want to have. It's not something you want to experience. It feels, yes, you've gotten 2nd place, but the guy in first is a reserve driver.
Yeah, definitely a diamond. He's also got a bit of a championship battle getting involved in. He's just behind Johan at the moment, just 2 points, but he's not that far off Iamotti. 13th place, 13 points off being a runner-up at the moment in this championship. Taking the victory is probably just going to be a bit of a stretch for him. I suppose it depends on how many races Kiski is forced to miss, but at the moment Thyman is just thinking about getting this victory. He's in the slipstream once again of Jordan Polska, but that Renault getting a very good exit out of turns 2, 3 and 4, and he's not able to do anything this time. Further back we've seen a swap of position between the two Williams, Suso and Aero now 6th and 7th, and Jack Eater has just got past Sam and Johan battling round the outside of Marco Kriesman in the hairpin. A bit of wheel banging between the two of them. These are dropping back slightly from the McLaren and the Mercedes up ahead.
The one thing that should give Thyman some hope in P2 right now is that he has saved quite a lot more ERS than Jordan Polska. Jordan's sitting on around 55% right now. Thyman on 75%, so we're talking 20% more. And you mentioned that Jordan did get a better exit out of turns 3 and 4. While that is true, Thyman also didn't really attempt to overtake. He was on no ERS deployment through pretty much all of the Parabolica, so he wasn't even going for it. He was just content to sit behind his VRT teammate in Jordan Polska and just try to maybe pull a gap to the rest of them, try to pull a gap to Dynastics, to Max, Pedro, who's coming closer now, and try to make this a two-way battle. Now, however, Thyman has different ideas, goes to the inside, gets the position off of the Renault, and Thyman now in the lead of the race.
Yeah, he's done that cleanly. Polska trying to hang on to the back of him is Jordan, but can he do anything into the Mercedes arena? Not this time around. So we've seen a swap for the lead of this race. Thyman now takes the lead. He does currently have, well, he still has the fastest lap indeed, so he's definitely got pace in free air. Can he show that at the moment? Pedro has caught up to the back of these guys, suggesting that maybe Jordan Polska was just beginning to hold them up a bit. So we've now got two Red Bulls involved in this battle for the lead. This will help their charge for second place in the Constructors' Championship. Suso, Aero, Iamotti, Jackita, Sam, they're all within 10 seconds of the lead after 10 laps of this race. It is incredibly close as Iamotti heads to the pits after 9 laps. Very interesting, a lot earlier than we expected.
Yeah, I'm going to look at his pit stop. Maybe that is for a front wing. No, it is not. The front wing will not be changed. Goes on to the hards. That is a little bit surprising. That is very early. As you mentioned, these hard tires can go around 24 laps, and that's exactly what they're going to have to do. He's going to stretch these hard tires to the end of their lifespan, really. And so, yeah, Motti, I'm not so sure about that strategy. Maybe trying an undercut here to try and gain some positions that way. But I think it was a little bit too early. I think the crossover between the mediums and the hards has not been reached yet.
Yeah, definitely. Suso is managing to keep up with Pedro a bit more than he was earlier on after starting in 5th position. But maybe Iamotti was going for the undercut. He wasn't exactly being held up. So just trying something a bit different. It's definitely worth a shot. He's now come out in 16th place ahead of Loney, but behind past it. We're on lap 12 now of this race as we see Aero coming in. So I think that pit stop by Iamotti is going to force a few others into early pit stops, which he may not have ideally been prepared for. So Aero, he'll be changing to the hard tyres, as well as Jordan Polska is looking very racy at the moment behind Thyman, getting a great run through turns 2, 3, and 4. I don't think there's going to be able to much for Haas will be able to do about this. Rear wing open on that Renault. He's ahead before the braking zone as Jordan Polska retakes the lead of this race. He's getting very close with Dynastics and Max just behind as well.
Yeah, and it needs to be said, I was just looking back, and Iamotti was only 4.5 seconds behind the lead when he came into the pits. So maybe this is an undercut, because he came out of the pits and he was 21.5 seconds down. So you can pretty much say there's a 17-second pit stop loss. So you lose 17 seconds from going into the pits, which is not that much in the, let's say, in the grand scheme of things, compared to most other tracks. Usually at least 20 seconds is what you calculate with. In Silverstone, it's even more than that. That's one of the longest pit lanes on the calendar. But 17 seconds isn't that much. If Iamotti gets... I think at this point he's already ahead of Suso whenever Suso goes into the pit. So he would take a net P6 right now. And that would obviously be an improvement, because when he came into the pits he was in 8th.
Yeah, definitely. Suso, he's sort of the odd one out of these front guys in 6th, the highest placed driver on those hard tyres. Obviously, it's Max looking very close to the back of Dynastics once again, but with them both having DRS, he's just not able to do anything. Pedro's dropped back slightly, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's the first one of these front 5 drivers to pit for the hard tyres, as Suso is beginning to just reel him in ever so slightly, but the gap between Suso and the leader staying constant at just over 3.5 seconds.
And I gotta say, Suso on those hards right now, I think he might be one of the favourites. The way he stays with those front guys, under 4 seconds the gap, I think once he gets onto the mediums, and then towards the end of the race, looking at the sky, I think the chance of rain has greatly decreased, as we have multiple drivers now coming in. Thyme and Pedro both going into the pits. Are they the only ones? Jaquita stays out. Samuel Bean comes in. it's very late here that they decide to come in. But yeah, Samuel Bean also in. They will all go on to the hard. So let's see where Thyman and Pedro come out in comparison to Iamotti. Iamotti is now going through turn 1. He will not catch them, but look at how close he has come. This is remarkable. The undercut has actually worked for him. Iamotti pulled off a great strategy move here, going into the pits earlier. He is just out of DRS range of Pedro there. Does not get the drag reduction assistance. And, remains in P14 right now. Obviously, in terms of strategy, I think you could make the argument he's probably in a net P6 right now.
Yeah, definitely. You would expect it to be ahead of Suso once Suso pits, but Suso will have the far better tyres, as now Pedro goes down the inside of Pasti, trying to make best use of those fresh, hard tyres. Does not want to get held up by any cars now that he's gone for the undercut. Thyman just ahead of him, who did get out ahead, as you would expect. He's got Jon Palainen and Giggs not too far ahead, and all these drivers are on hard tyres, so you're not going to expect them to get out of the way, as the rest of the medium shod runners all dive into the pits. Max, Jordan, Dynastics and Jaquita. That puts Suso in the lead of this race. Wouldn't surprise me if he only does another 3 or 4 laps tops before going onto those medium tyres, because I have seen a few drivers do about 18, 19 laps on them.
Yeah, that would effectively be the undercut, but on the exact opposite strategy. Trying to get rid of those mediums early, and then trying to get rid of those hards early, rather, and then take those mediums as long as you can, because they are the faster tyre by about half a second, just over half a second, really. And, meanwhile, Iamotti, I was on board with him for a while to see what happens with the other drivers. Now he sends it to the inside of the hairpin, trying to take 2 in 1 corner, and he does! Fantastic overtake by Iamotti. Gets both Max, who is on the same strategy as him, so that's a net position gained, and clears Pasti, who still has to pit.
Yeah, and Jon Palainen, he's sort of finding himself in the middle of this battle as well. He won't be wanting to compromise his own strategy, so the net race leader is still Jordan Polska. He's got a car in between himself and Thyman. Thyman's got Dynastics all over the back of him. Then it is Pedro, but Iamotti gaining ahead of Max. Max really the big loser out of those lead guys at this moment in this race. He qualified on pole in a net 6th position at the moment. We'll have to wait and see what he can do on those hard tyres. Simon still behind Giggs, and this might just give Jordan Polska a chance. He needs to try and escape. That gap is up to 1.5 seconds. You may remember Simon was all over the back of him at all the DRS zones earlier on in this race, but surely it's only a matter of time before the Haas clears the racing point.
Right now, yeah, around the outside of the parabolic and should have this cleared by the braking zone, and he does. Dynastics, however, doesn't make it through. Gives a slight tap, I think, to Giggs. It was hard to see whether he actually touched the rear of that racing point. I think here comes Dynastics again. He's done that before this race, into the Mercedes arena, to the inside, and takes the position. I think this is Dynastics' favourite overtaking spot.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. If you get a good enough exit coming off of that hairpin, stay around the outside.
Here comes Pedro. Here comes Pedro as well. Giggs just dropping position. Sorry to interrupt, but my goodness, Giggs now, and he's not really fighting, which I think at this point is the smart call. You don't want to fight this. You don't want to hold these guys up because it costs you time as well. As Jompalainen now goes into the pits. Same with Johan. That is early. This is the undercut I was talking about. You said 18, 19 laps. They didn't even do half the race on those hards.
Yeah, Jack Eatis currently set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:14.3. Because most of the drivers, I think, are going to want to get rid of these hard tyres as soon as possible and get onto those mediums until the end of this race. So we'll have to wait and see how that works, especially with Suso, the race leader. 6.5 seconds ahead of Sam at the moment, but the gap he'll be more worried about is 10.8 seconds back to Jordan Polska. When he pits, he's going to come out roundabout where Jack Eater is. He's going to have a lot of overtaking to do on those medium tyres.
Well, looking at it right now, obviously we don't know how this is going to develop over the next couple of laps, how the gaps are going to evolve. But right now, if he were to pit right now, he would come out just ahead of IRLT Max in 10th place there. So, and that would be a P9 for Suso, and from that point on, really just trying to charge up the field. He would pretty much be down around 6.5 seconds now to Jordan Polska and around 5 seconds to Thyman. Remember, it's only 17 seconds you lose. It's not the usual 20 seconds that you always estimate for every track. It's 17. It's a really short and fast pit lane, and what makes it even faster is that you have the pit lane on the inside of the first and last corner, so obviously a shorter run to it. You have the pit lane limiter line, the pit entry line, very late, very close towards the pits, so the pit lane itself isn't that long. And then you have effectively that you can cut turn 1, which is not a full speed corner. You have to lift through there, whereas if you come out of the pits, you just go full throttle and you're pretty much up the speed very quickly. Plus turn 2 comes rather soon after the pit lane exit, so you don't lose that much time over the straight after the pit exit either.
Yeah, Suso has headed into the pits. We've just been watching what you've been talking, Austin, in the battle between Thyman and Dynastics. I think Thyman's got wise to the Mercedes arena move from Dynastics. He defended the inside. That's allowing Jordan Polska to pull away slightly and allowed Pedro to catch up for these. What is the battle for third place? That will be battle for second, of course, when we see Marco Kriesman pit. Suso has pitted and he is coming out just behind Max at the moment, but he's got much fresher tyres than Max and Iamotti. Further up, Jordan Polska has managed to get past Marco Kriesman, will keep that lead. He's 2.5 seconds at the moment ahead of Thyman.
Yeah, I think this was the best thing that could have happened to Suso here. Come out of the pits right behind Max, but you get the DRS on the Parabolica and towards the hairpin, and so now Suso is ahead and into P7. That was an easy overtake, as easy as they come. And Suso can now hunt after the rest of the field. 7 seconds to Jordan Polska. That's not much. Marco Kriesman, we have to effectively take him out of the equation because he still has to pit. So Suso right now in a net P6. Iamotti his next target, and look at how close he is to him already.
Yeah, and there's Suso going purple in Sector 2. It wouldn't surprise me once he clears Iamotti, because I can't see Iamotti being able to do much about defending. Marco Kriesman has now got in the way after doing 19 laps on those hard tyres. Suso is going to be flying right up to the back of these cars. It's all about how quickly he can get ahead of these guys. And of course, penalties will play an all-important part, as I'm sure. As you can just see the pace of these mediums. Jon Palainen not really been involved in any lead battles in this race, setting the fastest lap. As we now see Suso getting past Iamotti, and also Dynastics trying it round the outside of the hairpin on Thyman. Thyman able to fend him off for now. Will Dynastics try his now trademark move into the Mercedes arena? Thyman very wise to that and just maintains that second place. But Suso, I think in 2 or 3 laps, he's going to be all over the back of Pedro.
Yeah, maybe give it a little bit longer. The difference between the mediums and the hards isn't that much. It's not a full second, but I think with 14 laps still remaining and only 6 seconds, I think Suso has a great chance of at least getting second place, maybe even the win.
Yeah, definitely. Nolan seems to be backing him for the win at the moment. Chapelale's going for Jordan. No surprise there, both in the Vortex Racing team. CRG White seems to think that if these drivers ahead create a DRS train, that might make it hard. But there is the pace I was talking about. 1:13.8 at this moment from Suso there. If we just have a look at the fastest lap that everyone else has done, that's a second faster than the fastest lap of Pedro. So that just shows you how much time he is gaining at the moment. Pedro Dynastics are going to have DRS, which is going to help them. This is going to be very tough, I feel, for these guys to defend from Suso. He might have to get a bit imaginative on his overtaking places, though, because into the hairpin, those that he will be attacking will have DRS, of course, as now Pedro gets a better exit than Dynastics, his teammate, out of that corner. It's been a great race from both of the Red Bull drivers so far.
Meanwhile, Luke, I have to draw your attention to the skies again. Remember how blue they were around 5 to 10 laps ago? That has changed again. It's gone overcast, and it might go even further than that. Rain is back on the cards. It could certainly happen with 14 laps. There's still, or 13 laps to go. There's still plenty of time for it to chuck down the skies, and yeah, it's gone darker and darker ever since around, I think, maybe lap 15, 16. That's when the change started. And if we see this continue, if we see this kind of a development continue, there is a really, really good chance that for Suso, this really doesn't pan out the way he hoped it would. But it could also stay dry, which I think at this point is what Suso, at least, is hoping for. Whereas everyone else, especially Jordan Polska, is probably thinking, hey, bring the rain, do it. In the lead right now, 4 seconds ahead of the others, as Dynastics now goes into the hairpin and overtakes Thyman for second place. So Red Bull's now in P2 and P4. Thyman trying to get it back. No, he's not close enough into the Mercedes arena here. So Dynastics having another fantastic race. But yeah, I think Jordan, Dynastics, Thyman and Pedro, I think they're the ones who would like some rain now, with Suso being right behind them and trying to now make an overtake happen on Pedro.
Yeah, we've now got a 4-car battle for second place. Suso very nearly bins it in the gravel trap. We've seen a car lose it before at the Sachs curve when they looked on for a victory, but it wasn't quite in the same manner as Suso just did it, but he maintains his 5th place. Max has got ahead of Iamotti for 7th place. Iamotti went for that very early pit stop, and I think he's already starting to suffer from that slightly. He's got his teammate behind him. McLaren's running 7th and 8th at the moment. Let's see what Suso can do. He's going to be in DRS, of course, but Pedro, he's also got the DRS, but he's just a bit further behind Thyman. I think it's going to have to be a late dive by Suso, and I'm not sure he's close enough.
He wants to the outside. I don't know why he did not dive there. If I was him, I would have tried that. Because obviously on those medium tyres, you can brake quite a bit later. Maybe here into the Mercedes arena, he thought about showing himself. Instead, he locks up. So he thought for a second about it, but then decided against it. I think Suso is being a little bit too patient here. I think the move was on into the hairpin. And he decided against it. He wanted to go to the outside, which I don't really understand, as we have a yellow flag in Sector 1. That is Slimbo, who spun on the exit of Turn 1, it seems. He is out of the race now.
Yeah, he's out of the race. Now, will this cause a safety car or anything? Hopefully.
Well, the cars are coming there right now, and he's on the middle of the track. He's still driving as a ghost car, so I don't know. This could very well cause a safety car. These kinds of things usually, or at least sometimes do. But yeah, now yellow flag Sector 1 too, because now the car was on the crossover point. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think we'll be fine, if I'm being honest, for this time around. Thyman not close enough to Dynastics. Suso again not close enough. Every lap this goes, it's going to look more and more likely that Jordan Polska will take the victory, and maybe, just maybe, we'll have a spot of rain, getting very cloudy again like it did at the start of this race. But still 11 laps to go. There's also a big battle going on at the moment for 6th place. 4 cars involved at that. It's Max, pole position, not the race he would have expected from Powell. He'll be pretty happy if he hangs on to 6th place and keeps that even run of results going.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Somehow it's his thing this year. I don't know why, but somehow this seems to be his trademark, always on the even positions for ILR Team Max there. But he has 2 McLarens to defend that against Ender Williams in Aero, so it's not over and done yet. Meanwhile, Dynastics got a really bad run out of Turn 1, and now the 2 Red Bulls are side by side. Thyman goes back into P2, Pedro into P3, and now the 2 Red Bulls are almost bullying the Williams of Sousa. There was a little bit of wheel banging between Dynastics and Pedro. I don't know what happened there, but Dynastics just had a really bad exit, lost 2 positions, and here we go. Sector 3, yellow flag. What is that? There's someone retiring in the pit lane. Here comes Suso to the inside for the hairpin, but does not get a good run on the exit. Dynastics keeps 4th place for now. Suso maybe into the, what we can now call the Dynastics corner, maybe? No. Dynastics keeps that 4th place very wisely there. Defends very well. And so Suso still biding his time, and every single lap he loses more grip than the hard runners in front of him do. So with every single lap he loses more time and is not going to be able to overtake as easily as he was on the lap before.
Yeah, I think if he hadn't been bullied by Dynastics, he'd have got a much better run than both Red Bulls, and we could have maybe seen him getting up into 3rd place. It just all got a bit clumsy. Obviously 3 into 1 doesn't go, but thankfully no damage done. But again, he's got a fantastic exit out of Turn 1. I don't think Dynastics is going to be able to do much this time around, as down the inside goes Suso into 4th position. Now he's got to try and close back onto the back of Pedro, who has got a time penalty. We've just seen there, Dynastics, so he's going to have a go on the Williams again, try and get this position back. He's going to have the grip to do it around the outside. He's trying his best. He'll be able to hang on to the outside. Suso being very fair to give him credit, but that's just going to give Dynastics the advantage into his favourite overtaking spot at the Mercedes Arena. He's going for it this time around, gets the move done again. So at the end of all that, Suso still in 5th position.
And I'm surprised that Suso wasn't able to hang it around the outside of the Mercedes Arena there. He does have the better tyres still, so he should have had at least a little bit more grip than the Red Bull that he was fighting with. But for some reason, Dynastics, yeah, he just loves that corner. I think that's what it comes down to in the end. And so, yeah, Suso still in 5th place, not finding a way past.
Yeah, and I think his best chances have been and gone. He'll have worn out those mediums more than the hards of Jordan Polska and the others ahead of him. Jordan now with a 4-second lead in this race in the Renault. It's been a perfect debut so far. He's got 7.5 laps to go to become our 5th different winner in 5 races. Despite Kiski having that big lead in the championship, it has been extremely competitive so far. Suso looking for it again down the inside, this time into the hairpin. Pedro on the inside of Thyman. Suso's gone very late. I feel like last lap he should have bullied Dynastics a bit more. He's gone for it this time. He's up into 4th as Pedro and Thyman were side by side for a second there, but Pedro has now got 2nd place. A Red Bull gains a place and a Red Bull losing a place.
Yeah, ultimately, if we look at the net points gained or lost, we are at 1. They gained 3 from that overtake by Pedro, and they lost 2 by Souza overtaking Dynastic. So in the end, it's still good for Red Bull. However, one buffer to that dangerous Williams of Souza has now dropped. There's only one more remaining, and that's Simon, and then it would be Pedro. So it's still good, because I talked about this a couple times before. If you have a DRS train, the third guy has the most difficult task to overtake anyone, really, because he's so far away from the only guy in the train who doesn't have DRS, being the leader of that train. And second guy, he won't be able to overtake because they both have DRS.
Yeah, definitely. I think what helped him last time was him and Dynastics were just a bit further back from Simon. Asuso makes a very late decision to go for that move. I think he's suddenly got a bit of a move on here and realised if he wants to win, he's going to have to be a bit more forceful with his overtakes, and it is working for him. He is now up into third position. Pedro will be his next target. Diamond losing 2 places at the hairpin in 2 laps. Further back, Iamotti has managed to get past Max for 6th place. We just saw some yellow flags briefly. I believe that may have been Samuel Bean or Giggs.
No,
they are
Antoine,
who is having a bit of a nightmare after such a great race last time. He is down in last position at the moment, but you can just see from the track map how close this race has been. There's a great battle going on at the moment for the final points positions. Both Ferraris at the back of this, and you've also got Sam and Johan, who is currently in that place, and I think I jinxed Sam Yabeen as he has now gone off.
Yeah, I think you did. Entry of the Sachs corner, and something must have gone horribly wrong. I think what happened is that Samuel Bean and Giggs tangled up, and it sent Samuel Bean to the right side on the exit of turn 12, and now he has to try and get into the pit lane, and he does a little bit of an in move there as he cuts across the grass, but makes it into the pit lane, and Suso now past Pedro and into P2. However, Pedro doesn't give up yet, shows himself in the mirrors of Suso, but is not going for that attempt. That is Dynastic's corner. Just because you're in the same car doesn't mean you can pull off the same kind of move.
Yeah, it's incredibly close between these guys, but Suso has now managed to get up into 2nd place. He's got 5 laps to find 4 seconds on Jordan Polska. It is going to be a challenge. We'll have to see what he can do over the next couple of laps. And you know what? Iamotti and that whole group aren't too far off these guys either. If he just finds a bit of pace, maybe the McLaren can get back onto the back of these guys and could get himself a podium, which is what he really needs to stay in this championship hunt. Mathematically, he's still going to be in it, of course, but realistically, if we're assuming that Kiesley does only miss this one race, he's going to need some great results. He's just over a second behind at the detection point. I think it's anyone's guess as to what's going to happen in this race at the moment.
Yeah, at this point, really, the top 9 are all up for grabs, apart from maybe John Polska in the lead, but 2nd to 9th, and 10th place as well, obviously, but obviously Johan, who's currently in 10th, probably not going to be able to move up the order, only down, so that one final spot is going to be fought out between Johan, Sam, Marco Krisman, and Jompalainen, as Marco Krisman now goes past Sam. But yeah, 2nd to 9th could finish in any potential order. That is absolutely remarkable. As we have yellow flag, sector 2 and 3. That is Sam, who has spun around on the exit of turn 11. That is the exit of the Mercedes Arena. And he's now dropped off that group, so he's no longer in that fight. Seems like I've cursed him now, unfortunately. I apologize if I did. But yeah, 2nd to 9th as Simon goes past Pedro. Pedro must have had a horrible run in turn 1 because Simon just breezed past him very, very easily. But meanwhile, lap 31, let's look at penalties because that could change everything.
Yes,
and it might. Jordan Polska has 1 penalty and 2 more warnings. If he gets another warning, that's 6 seconds. Suso. Oh, he's kept it clean. 2 warnings. He doesn't have a penalty yet. Simon, 2 warnings, no penalty. Pedro, we saw him get 1 penalty. He is on 2, so that's 6 seconds for him. Dynastics, 1 penalty, 3 seconds. Iamotti, 2 penalties, 6 seconds. Max, 2 warnings, no penalty. Jaquita, 1 penalty, 3 seconds. Aero, 2 warnings. Johan, 1 penalty, 3 seconds. Marco Krisman, 2 penalties, 6 seconds. Jompalainen, is always keeping it clean. A single warning. He's the cleanest of them all, I think. And then Sam obviously dropped off now a little bit, but he also had 2 penalties anyway, so 6 seconds for him.
Yeah, so Suso, as things stay as they are, if he just gets within 3 seconds, he only needs to find another quarter of a second and he could take a victory here. Started off the season as a reserve.
Here comes Pedro.
Yes, Pedro. There's contact between Pedro and Thyman. Thyman's never going to make the apex of that hairpin. Pedro says thank you very much. And Dynastics gets the move done as well. And with Iamotti not too far behind, maybe that's the opportunity he needs as Thyman has a look at Dynastics, but nothing doing this time. I did come to that quite late. I think there was just a bit of wheel banging. That obviously affected Thyman in the braking zone and cost him a possible podium here today.
Meanwhile, the notification you saw on the bottom of the screen was a very, very important one. Suso got his 3rd warning. He has a 3-second time penalty as well now, meaning if Jordan keeps this clean, he can afford to lose another 3 seconds and let Suso come close, as long as Suso doesn't overtake. Again, Jordan is on 2 warnings, or a penalty already and 2 warnings, so he can't afford a singular track extension warning as well. Suso may have just thrown the win away, but if Jordan gets himself an additional penalty, then he may throw the win away. However, it seems like the penalty that Suso got was on the exit of the hairpin. He ran a little bit wide on the exit of the hairpin. I'm not sure that he gained that much of an advantage. He may have that penalty looked at after the race. And if he gets no more warnings, then he might get that 3-second time penalty removed. So this is all going to be provisional, unofficial results. And we are going to come back at you with the official results in 2 weeks then for the Canadian Grand Prix and keep you updated on that as Sammy Bean gets the fastest lap. So that came late. He's in the 2nd sector. What happened? The final sector. What happened there?
He's just Samu Bean, not Suso.
Samu
Bean
Kometa is confusing me. So it was Sammy Bean.
Samu Bean flying on them hard tyres. We've now got a bit more of a DRS train going on. We've got Pedro 3rd all the way down to Aero in 9th. Pedro, the only one of those drivers who will not have DRS. We are all of a sudden on the final lap of this race. It has flown by. Iamotti's dropped a couple of places to Jack and Max at the moment. Is Dynastics going to have a go on his teammate to get his 2nd podium of the season? Pedro having to go defensive. That's going to force him wide, and Dynastics having a look around the outside, but nothing doing this time around. So it's looking good out front though, as we see there Samu Bean. That's how hard he's pushed. He's earned himself a penalty on those hard tyres. Jordan Polska though is coming around the final sector now. He has been fantastic today so far. Great in the wet weather in qualifying, took the lead early on, had that battle with Thyman, but importantly managed to get out ahead of the traffic, and he has done fantastically. He's going to cross the line to take victory here today at Germany. It's a win for Jordan Polska. Suso comes across the line. He's only 2 tenths behind with penalties. Thyman takes it on 3rd place. That is how close things are. Dynastics and Pedro dropping down to 6th and 8th. Pedro losing 5 places on penalties there. Thyman in 3rd. Max with a great finish in 4th. Aero 5th. Jaquita 7th. Got Iamotti in 9th. And Jompalainen keeping it clean as always, getting that final point. So it was a good job Jordan Polska didn't relax too much there, taking the victory by 2 tenths of a second.
Yeah, so I think what we've missed is that Jordan Polska also got himself a 2nd penalty at some point. So he was on 6 seconds, actually, and Suso on 3. That's why Suso gained 3 seconds there. So Suso got himself that penalty, that 2nd penalty, and still managed to win. by a matter of 0.2 of a second. That is remarkable. However, as I said before, Suso might be able to get one of his 3-second penalties removed. I'm trying to look at the race director and see how many warnings Suso got. If he got an additional 7th warning, he would have to show the stewards 2 incidents where he was falsely penalized for exceeding track limits or, getting an advantage, etc. But meanwhile, it is Jordan Polska in his first race in AOR. That's a remarkable debut, isn't it? I mean, you show up for the first time, and the first thing you do is you win the race.
Yeah, great job from him. I don't think he realised he was racing until quite late on, so that is a fantastic performance from him. He takes the victory here tonight and with a win, and Suso didn't get a penalty, so I'm wondering if we've mixed him up with Sam Ubin again.
I'm pretty sure I didn't, no. Oh, it might be... Wait a second.
We'll move on.
He did get... That is weird, we did.
We'll move on. So, Jordan Polska with the victory. Suso just missing out on what would have been his first win. Thymon, another podium. 2 in a row now for him. That is 3rd, and he's looking good to maybe take that runners-up spot in the championship. Max with a fantastic finish from pole position. That equals his best finish of the season. Aero 5th, Dynastics 6th, Jaquita 7th, Pedro losing 5 positions there because of penalties. Iamotti 9th, Jompalainen 10th, then Marco Frisman, Johan, Sam, Pasti, Antoine, Giggs, Sam Ubin the final finisher. Loney, Slimbo and Avesi were the retirements, and it was a broken controller for Loney. Absolutely gutting at his home Grand Prix. But you've got to say, Jordan Polska, there'll be a few of these drivers fairly glad he's a reserve after a performance like that.
Yeah, pretty much. And it needs to be said also that Jordan Polska is the 6th reserve driver. So if any driver drops out and says he doesn't want to race the final 3 races of the season, which, to be fair, is very unlikely. But if someone, for example, like Loney has a broken controller and takes too long to get a replacement controller, at that point, he would probably drop out for the final 3 races. Jordan Polska would not be the first option. He wouldn't be the second. He would be the 6th option to fill that seat. The first one would be Suso. So, him getting 2nd place. We have 2 reserve drivers on the 2 top steps of the podium, and then it's Thymon, who effectively of the full. Let's call them the full-time drivers. He effectively got a win, but it counts pretty much for nothing because it's just the 3rd place, 15 points. His 3rd podium, at least, and some more points in the championship. Let me quickly try and calculate the results here. So Thymon is on 91 now. Johan did not get a point, P12 for him, so he's going to stay on 78. So he's going to drop down to 4th place. And Iamotti... Where'd he finish? He was P9. So that's 2 points for him.
So he's also on 91, tied with Thymon.
Yeah, they're tied for 2nd place right now at 91 points. I'm going to tell you right now, though, who the winner of this race was. At least championship-wise, Kiski. Missed it, and only... The gap from him to 2nd place in the standings has only dropped by 2 points.
Yeah, so he'll be delighted with that, and at the moment that makes it a 52-point gap, which means he can pretty much get the title sewn up next time around. If he just beats Iamotti, that will be enough. And Thymon, if they both finish in the points, that will be enough in 2 weeks' time. Hopefully he'll be feeling better by then, because we want to see this championship decided with some great racing on track. We've seen fantastic racing today, battles all throughout the field. I struggle to remember a race where there was that many cars, and it really cost Pedro with how close it was, losing 5 places at the end because of penalties. He'd have been hoping for a podium. In the end, only able to finish in 8th place, but Red Bull showing great pace once again.
Yeah, it's a learning experience, I think, for Pedro. When you are in the AOR F2, that's the point where everyone's so close in terms of pace, everyone's so fast that getting penalties and not keeping it clean on track regarding the track limits just makes you suffer so much. You thought you had a podium, and in the end it's an 8th place and you only get 4 points instead of the 15 you hoped for.
Yeah, that'll be gutting for him, but he can definitely take some from the pace that he's had. And one corner in a few weeks where you're really going to have to watch out for track limits is the Wall of Champions. That is where round 10 is taking place. It will be the Canadian Grand Prix in a fortnight. You can tune in now to the Xbox One F1 League. They are coming towards the end of their qualifying session. But from myself and Austin, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Good night.